Hello, and welcome to Tai'Shar Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Will.
Here we are again to discuss Wheel of Time show-related news that we've been building up for a while now. While we're on topic, we are going to spoil. Lots of spoiling will happen. So if you would not like to be spoiled, join us next week where we return to a Path of Daggers.
Which always sounds painful every time we say something like that.
True. A Crown of Swords, a Path of Daggers, a Knife of Dreams.
Yes. Pointy objects and
very
the
thematic
latter half of the Wheel of Time. Okay, so starting us off with the unofficial news, some minor casting news. A new cast member in an unnamed role was recently announced. This is kind of how bottom of the barrel the news has really been lately.
Yeah.
Her name's Evelyn Mock. She's a Chinese-Swedish stand-up comedian. So,
okay, all right.
That's kind of interesting just by itself.
Specific, yeah.
Right, exactly. I'm like, how many of those could possibly exist? That sounds like that's like 1 in a billion.
Mm-hmm.
She'll be playing a small role according to her casting agents, whatever. Anyway, it's somewhere online. If it is a truly minor role, then she could be some random Shinaran, Soldayan, I don't know. And she may not make any kind of big impact on the story. And that seems pretty likely to me. I debated even bringing this up because it doesn't seem like there's much to talk about, but it's some of the only news we've gotten recently regarding the cast.
Chinese, Swedish, those are not two nationalities you hear together often.
Right. Chinese, Swedish stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It sounds like the start of a bad joke somehow. I feel like. Moving on to other unofficial news, WoTSeries.com reports a rumor that the show will eliminate one of the 7 Ajas, to which I say a big fat meh. I mean,
yeah.
But before I even read the actual article, when I just saw the headline, I mean, let's be honest. We know they're not going to be removing the blue, the green, the brown, the yellow, or the red.
Right.
Like,
it's going to be the gray or the white, really, is what it's going to
exactly.
be.
And so
the black's not going away.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And the white and the gray feel pretty interchangeable. I mean, I know the white's the logic and gray is negotiation, but they all negotiate.
Right. Yeah, the brown, the white, the gray are all kind of a little bit similar, but yeah, especially the white and the gray. And so
I don't even know if I had to name them if I would have remembered just going through it. So yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
But then I actually read the article, and indeed the gray is rumored to be the one that's getting the boot. Of course, that makes total sense. It was rumored that there was somebody in the writer's room that said something like, what does the gray Aja do anyway?
Right. They do what all other Aes Sedai. It doesn't really, the gray Aja doesn't really make sense as a flavor of Aja. Like all the other ones are pretty clear cut. I mean, almost all the other ones.
Right.
Like the blue, they're all about Tarmon Gaiden. The green is the battle Aja, and also they have warders. Yellows, healing.
Right.
Brown is the bookish and the historians, and the reds hate men.
Right. White is Spock-like.
Yeah, that's fine. If they want to do that, I hope they don't do that too much.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just there was no chance they were going to get rid of the ones that we're all concerned with.
If they did, it would be a mistake if they got rid of any other one.
Another little tidbit of news. Filming in the Canary Islands. WoT series also caught that the Wheel of Time series was listed as having benefited from filming incentives offered by, and I'm going to butcher the name of this, Tenerife,
which is right off the coast of Africa, Morocco, Sahara, of Western Sahara. Is that actually a country? It's a disputed territory. Oh, I'm learning all kinds of stuff. Western, I guess no one really, lives in the Sahara Desert. So the Western Sahara is just a place.
So the filming incentives were offered in Tenerife, which I don't know if you know this, Sam, but it's off the coast of the Western Sahara, which is a disputed.
Right.
The cast member who's playing Aram might have been there, but looking at the photos that they have on their article, it doesn't look like it would be any place that the Tinkers would be. It looks more like either the Waste, which we would be kind of early for, or I could see the Blight. It looks kind of
definitely Tatooine. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Although, like, then they have the pretty pictures of the more islandy looking areas.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would think that the like island town there would think like Ilion or Tyr.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which I guess we could be getting to that. Maybe we could be getting to that by the end of.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could picture them like cutting to a scene there.
They could, we've established that there is a young swan. So
sure, Tyr. Okay.
Next bit of pseudo news: Madeline Madden, who will be playing Egwene, took a selfie on a plane recently. Admitting or taking this as a sign that filming will resume.
Hooray!
In the aforementioned mid-April timeframe.
Everybody got jabbed.
There's not a lot of solid reason to believe this, unfortunately, just yet, as the coronavirus numbers in the Czech Republic are only just starting to turn around.
Yeah.
While the number of active cases, number of new daily cases has actually been dropping for at least a couple of weeks now. Their numbers aren't flattening out as fast as some other countries yet, and they're really only recently started to see the vaccination becoming more available.
Like the only way I could see it happening is if they somehow had every single cast and crew member vaccinated already, which possible, I suppose, but probably not. Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe that was why they gave the timeline. Maybe because that would have been the amount of time it might have taken to get.
Make sure everybody gets to the full couple weeks after
everybody fully inoculated. So big news that I suspect everybody who listens to our podcast has probably already checked out at some point. Maybe, I don't know, was the unblurring of the scripts from the teaser videos that have been released over the last couple of months. The Dusty Wheel worked hard and managed to figure out what both of the script pages we've been shown in 2 of those teaser trailers were saying. And while one of them doesn't reveal much, the other is a little interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Dusty Wheel has a whole breakdown of both of these, so if you want to spend more time poring over it, you should definitely check out his video on each one of these, where he also talks through his process of kind of figuring out what each word was. It was kind of painstaking. So we'll start with the more recent one, the Dagger trailer, the Shedder Logoth trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the script says interior Shedder Logoth ruins house continuous. We see and find someone's house. It's in the ruins now, but it's clear they were wealthy. Then he sees the glint of light shine. This is, you can see it's probably matte. It's a small gold and black chest, beautiful but aged. He moves towards it, blowing dust away. The iron is rusted and decayed and cracks away as he opens the case. Then we get the line that is unblurred. And inside he sees something protected from the ravages of time, a ruby-encrusted dagger. It must be worth more than anything he's seen before. He picks it up, looks at it, and we're back to the blurred stuff. A high-pitched, inhuman scream comes from outside. He whips his head back towards the scream, and then it switches to exterior, and it says Temple Night. Then all we know is that there's something about horses there.
I guess my first question would be why is any of it blurred in the first place?
Yeah. There were folks on Twitter that were acting like, oh, look, our fandom is so smart. We figured it out. I have no doubt that they
expected that to happen.
That this will happen.
Of course. It's like, we can't get a full trailer out, so we'll give them something to gnaw on.
Right, exactly. They need a little puzzle.
Yeah,
one of the things that's kind of interesting is the high-pitched inhuman scream reminds me of like the sound that the Nazgul makes.
Oh, that's a good point.
Which is kind of, I could totally see Mashadar having that kind of a,
yeah, it's not something I ever would have thought to do, but I guess it would make it like, I mean, the books, I don't picture that. I don't think it's mentioned, but I could see how like a menacing fog wouldn't be that scary in a TV show. Like, oh, there's some fog coming toward me, I should probably move away. Even if you see somebody eat it, I guess the addition of a scream, unless the scream is like a Murdral or a Trolloc eaten.
Could be any number of things. I mean, says something about the horses below. It could be the horses getting attacked by Mashadar.
Also true.
We don't learn a whole lot from that. It's just him exploring Shedder Logoth. Obviously, the way we already kind of knew from the trailer that he was coming across the dagger in a slightly different way than
And
is in
and
the
that's probably for the best.
oh
I
yeah.
don't have a problem with that at all. It was sort of a weird scene.
Yeah, in the book, it's just like he's later
He's like,
like,
oh,
oh,
got this thing while I was.
yeah, right. And it turns out to be a major thing for multiple books. And so it completely makes sense to me to make more over it in the
Actually have
show.
it happen, yeah.
Right. This other script from the earlier trailer about Tom's guitar, this
Right,
was more interesting to me. This
for sure.
has a little bit more that you can clearly take from it. So it actually reveals two lines before we get to the line about Tom, Maryland. So first, it's Rand asking, has anyone else come into town around our age? A woman with a braid or a big man, a blacksmith? And so, first thing you can take away is that Matt must be with Rand if
Yep,
he's
sure. Yeah, so
uh,
we have a pretty good idea of where this is, I would
right.
say.
Yeah, this is,
After they've been split up in Shader Logoth, and
right,
it could be in any number of villages between
right.
there and Camelin, or it could just be in Camelin.
Yeah. And then we have Dana, who was one of the
Dana, we weren't
characters.
sure about.
Yeah, we weren't sure what her deal was, but now we have a pretty good idea that she's probably some kind of innkeeper or serving woman at a.
I feel like I can't say tavern wench anymore. That's probably
I
not
don't know.
something I just said it, but I was saying it to say I can't say it, so that's
Yeah.
okay, right? I don't know.
Sure, sounds good. She replies that the only fresh one in town's the Gleeman. Best quiet down. He's supposed to do one more song. The part that we saw in the unblurred portion. She nods her head to Tom Maryland, who's finishing a beer as he heads back up to the stage carrying his guitar. Tom is wearing the patchwork color on the inside of his cloak, identifying him as a Gleeman. The patchwork inside the cloak is something, I don't know if we talked about it too much back when this first came out. It did remind me how when somebody asked Rafe in one of his Q&As about the patchwork cloak, he said, well, you are going to see it, but it's going to be different than you imagine, because he likes to say that. So this kind of actually explains that. But I guess to me, the big takeaway here is we don't meet Tom at the beginning in the Two Rivers.
Yes, that makes sense. You can see that making, I don't know. How important is Tom before Shader Logoth? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, not hugely.
Yeah, I don't think he has it is sort of awkward when they're leaving Emmons Field and he's like, I'm going to come too.
Right.
So maybe that's part of the reason they just didn't want to do that.
Right. No, it makes sense to me. I can see him more getting into a conversation with these boys and being like, oh, these boys have gotten themselves.
You look lost, son.
Yeah, exactly. In over their heads. Let me see if I can help them find their way where they need to be going.
Yeah.
And kind of getting swept up in things that way.
Sure.
But yeah, I think, this goes towards something that we all need to be prepared for, and that is these changes.
Yeah.
That, in the broad scheme of things, are arguably minor, but are probably going to feel pretty big to all of us that are fans of the book. Yes, and that especially like to you and me, Sam, lately, where we've been like kind of going through the books really closely and kind of like asking questions about this, and to our listeners who have been part of that, I suspect that we're going to have to kind of be ready to adjust to these kinds of changes that, as we're saying it, ultimately it's not going to probably have a huge impact by itself. Moving on to official news. Of course, the big one was the Moraine teaser. And this has been done to death by this time because it came out almost a full month ago by this time. And it's funny because, there it is. It's 5 seconds long. Yet our fandom has managed to break it down every way, up, down, sideways, in the middle. Yeah. There's not really much that we can say. Obviously, it's super short, and all we see is Rosamund's face for a moment, and the somewhat strange line, do not underestimate the women of this tower, which I spent some time kind of wondering about, as did many others. But then Rafe, actually, he kind of clears up where the line comes from in this Q&A. There's a few things you can take away. She's not wearing the jewel on her head. Right. I've seen people, and the popular thought is that this is actually some point during Winter Night when she's fighting off Trollocs. One theory on that is that, she had to get up in the middle of the night, and so she may not be wearing the jewel right at that moment. Yeah, I wondered if this was actually her face, the first time we see her channel or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But race Q&A here, as he has done with several of these trailers, he offered to do a Q&A online. He answered questions. I feel like he's getting less focused with his answers because I didn't actually pick out all of them this time because a lot of them were just they weren't even related to the trailer.
Yeah.
It was stuff he's actually kind of already answered before. Read the first one and I'll read the second one. We'll go forward.
All right. So, question: where's her jewel? Answer: I can confirm here officially that the how do you say that?
Sierra.
The first time I saw it, I was like, Tai'Shar, like Tai'Shar.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah, Sierra.
Sierra, sure, will appear in the show. I can also confirm I correctly spelled that word on my first try, but I did Google. You did Google it to double check.
The jewel,
right? That's her focus,
right? Will appear in the show. It's
like it was already a weird concept,
right?
I wouldn't be surprised if they made it into an angriel or something.
Right?
I mean, people would be mad about that, I'm sure, but
frankly, it would make more sense. I was always confused about what that thing was. But so the next question. Somebody asked, I know what I'm excited about, but what is our great Lord Rafe most excited about? And Rafe answered, I'm not sure if you're low-key calling me out as a dark friend, which I'm like, no, they're low-key calling you the Dark One.
The Dark Lord.
Yeah. That's it. He says, but either way, I think the moment Moraine first walks into the Wine Spring Inn was the moment that really made me feel that true fan part of me make unintelligible sounds.
All right. That's cool.
Whee!
Good stuff. Question: what direction Rosamund given about the facial expressions and body movements that she would use when channeling? Is this something that is universal through channelers, or are body movements more organic for each channeler? Answer: I really wanted the channeling to come from the women themselves and have them really believe it. So Rosamund was instrumental in building the look of it for herself, and each woman has built something out of what makes sense for her and her character, so it gives something authentic to it. The most important thing is that when you look in the actor's eyes, you know they believe they have the power of the earth itself at their fingertips, and I promise you, Rosamund does. Hey, yeah, it makes sense.
Question: is this audio disconnected from the scene of Moraine? And the answer is yes. Rosamund actually recorded this audio for the teaser trailer specifically, so you won't hear this exact audio in the show.
Aha. Fair enough.
So I'm kind of like, well, why did they? What? This
Y'all need to get back to work.
It seemed like an odd line to me to just record just for the trailer.
I'm with you. Yeah. Give us a real trailer, dang it, with some footage from the show.
Right.
Question: that doesn't look ageless. Is this something that is being reworked? VFX that require you to touch every frame that a character appears on screen are not great uses of money, so don't expect to see CGI faces for all Aes Sedai. I'd be okay with no CGI faces for Aes Sedai. Just don't do it.
I saw people taking this as, well, we don't have ageless faces. He was responding to is this something being reworked question. I disagree with the person that Rosamund Pike doesn't naturally look ageless. I
agree. I think she does.
I think for one thing, that term is, of course, vague and different people have different ideas of what it means. I, in general, think of how today, especially, it seems like there's a lot of middle-aged folks who look like they could pass for anywhere from late 20s to,
I think of like Freddie Prinze Jr. in various teen movies, that whole effect.
Yeah. Yep. I don't see why you would want to bring CGI, like you're saying, into this.
Yeah, let's learn from Superman, Superman's mustache in Justice League. Yeah. It's just not good.
Yeah. This occurred a little while ago now, but we haven't talked about it yet. And, as we were talking about this episode, Sam, you were saying, hey, I really want to make sure we cover this. Brandon Sanderson, he gave an interview. He talked about several things in relation to the Wheel of Time, but I know one specific thing was the alternate.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Talking about the conflict between Jordan's notes when there was just he
Right.
sort of had to debate with himself on his notes about, and then this was specifically about using the Choden Call
Yeah.
in the last battle as opposed to Kalendor. And the problem was, of course, the access keys had been destroyed. So what are you going to do? Find some more access keys?
Yeah.
Haul the whole thing with you to pick it up with a power? I don't know. So Sanderson said he opted to just not do that, which is fair.
I could be wrong, but I was thinking even the female Choden Call completely vaporized during the cleansing of Sidene. Maybe I have that wrong, but
I cannot remember. You've read that more recently than I have. So
I know there's something where something happens to the female Choden Call. It's on Tremalking, and the native people of Tremalking have basically a suicide pact written into their culture that if something happens with this statue, that they all kill themselves.
Oh, cool.
And so that happens, and it's mentioned in the books. Yeah, exactly. That's the way it sounds. It's very Jonestown sounding. I kind of wonder if when he wrote that, if it was around the time that was going on.
Oh yeah, maybe so. Interesting.
But I mean, when he wrote the note, not when he, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
We've talked about this a little bit, but the male Choden Call, when Rand passes by at that one time, could he just touch it?
Yeah, right. Just go up and just put his foot on a toe or his hand on a toe or something. That's a fair question. Yeah.
And access it, or do you always have to have the access key to be able to use it?
Right. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
I was looking for this. I was going to watch it earlier, so I found the wrong Brandon Sanderson interview, and it was one from a couple of years ago. But it was crazy. I don't know if I realized this, that he originally had written The Way of Kings before he wrote Mistborn, Elantris, all that stuff.
Oh wow!
And somebody a publisher I think it was Tor. Somebody wanted to pick it up, and he wasn't happy with it. He pulled it and just decided not to use any of it. So he wrote Mistborn, got that published, and then went back and threw away. I mean, maybe he didn't throw away. He got rid of all of everything he'd written for The Way of Kings and started over. Wow. Which is he had a full book. And
I mean, imagine.
Yeah, golly, it's incredible. He talked in the real interview. He also mentioned a deleted scene.
Oh yeah,
with 3 ladies making a bridal wreath for Rand, and it just didn't. He said it didn't fit thematically with everything that was happening. So he just it's a good scene. Doesn't really make sense given the stakes of what's happening right now.
Yeah, I read the article that somebody wrote, kind of highlighting these things, and I thought it was funny. He was talking about how it was great and it was funny and it had all these fun parts in it. And everybody who read it loved it and everything. And then I went to put the book together, and it
did not make sense.
Yeah. Memory of Light it's just pretty intense. It's just kind of
absolutely, it's a battle,
right? It's essentially an extended battle, and the idea that there was this interrupted moment of just this joviality,
right.
I mean, if they could figure out a way to make it fit in the show, I think that could actually be one of those scenes.
Oh man, if we get to that point, I will be thrilled. I mean, they may go super fast and not have any trouble at all getting there. That's fine, but
hope they don't go super fast. But
right.
Well, we can move on to our mailbag. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to holler mail.
It's a lot of mail.
Yeah. So first off, from some of our regular commenters, Jacinta, she asked, I believe in her native Ilianer accent, would ye swear the oaths and lose maybe 100 years or more, or would ye join the kin or Aiel or someone else? So basically, I guess, assuming you're a channeler, for us, if we were channelers, we'd be dudes. So at this point, it would be pretty different, but
in the Age of Legends, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If you could choose from the different, if there was or we'll say in the Fourth Age.
Sure. If there's a reunion of the Ashaman and the Aes Sedai, and the Ashaman are swearing oaths.
Yes.
I would love to read that book.
Yeah. Right. Okay. But basically, would you swear the oaths? or join one of the other
Yeah,
factions.
it's an interesting idea. Of course, in the Fourth Age, the Aiel are like beggars or whatever. They've been destroyed, and they're like,
yeah. Well,
just...
in the version that Aviendha shows, but we have reason to believe that might not come to fruition because.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well, it's at the Dragon's Peace. Problem was the Aiel didn't have a role after the last battle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
She actually puts forth the idea that the Aiel would be the arbiters between nations.
Oh yeah, okay. That's coming back to me.
I think we're led to believe that shifts their role.
I love the idea of an Ashaman being in the kin. I really in the knitting circle. I would
just
like.
A random old
that's
dude.
my answer. I would like to be in the knitting circle very much. I want to run the farm, hang out with Elise, just
right.
Go to the olive groves, and
I would think that I would love to have been an Aiel, so I could be like, I'm an Aiel.
Yeah,
I'm one of those
desert ninja, man.
Right? Yeah, who wouldn't want to be, right? But
totally.
I'm also like, I would definitely be more of a White Tower, Black Tower, Ivory Tower, whichever color, kind of person, hold up someplace.
Oh, that's a fair question. Okay, so if you were, assuming you were an Aes Sedai and Aes Sedai were men, etc., what Aja would you choose?
I'm surprised it's taken us this long to get here.
I know, really. I haven't even thought about this.
We've been going for almost 2 years, and we haven't brought this up.
I know, really. Maybe we should guess what each other's Aja would be.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that might be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Sam. I mean,
I was thinking. Yeah.
I think like
take it a couple of directions,
right?
Really.
Exactly. Like adult Sam, I could totally actually see being like brown Aja.
Yeah, that's. I was actually thinking that. So you've kind of the pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah, you're very well read. You're well educated. All that.
But a worldly brown.
Yes. Yeah. Not a completely
a dusty library. Not only a dusty library brown.
Yeah. Okay. So you were a brown that a lot of people thought might choose the green.
Well said.
That's I think that's the way.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think you'd be more of a green.
Yeah.
I think I could see you being more of a green, just being out there, being the battle Aja, having having your coterie of warriors, whomever they might be.
Yes.
I could see it.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I could
see you as a yellow too, maybe if you were really
as a healer.
Healing, yeah. If you really go all in on healing, could see that.
I'm pretty task driven, so I feel like blue would actually be a pretty good hey, here's the cause, let's go after it.
Absolutely, they're single minded. Red is also single minded.
Yeah, but I'm not a jerk. Yeah, something they talk about towards the end of the series, where as the tower's coming back together and everything, I think Egwene says something about how we need the Reds and their passion and their experience and everything. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah, like, do we though? I mean, like
maybe we can give them a new task, I guess. But you could just dissolve the Red, and that'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean, and we do meet a few Reds. I think we've met them already, but we kind of get to know a few Reds that aren't just awful, but towards the end. And so you kind of appreciate them, but at the same time, it's like their main job doesn't exist anymore.
It's redundant.
By the end of this. And so
layoffs are coming for the Reds. Sorry,
right, exactly.
You're redundant. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Goodbye.
We're heading in a different direction. We're not picking up your option.
Right.
They're downsizing. You're part of
a culture fit. Really.
Yes, it's a culture thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Poor Reds.
Indeed.
Elsewhere, Jacinta asks, and I think this was on one of our more recent episodes where we were kind of discussing the double use of Angreal.
Right.
And she asked the question, doesn't Rand use the Fat Man Angreal and Calendor at the same time somewhere?
I know. Yeah, we were talking about him using the Fat Man Angreal and the Choden Call, and I don't know about Calendor. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe in the stone.
Yeah.
When he gets Calendor.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I feel like Calendor we're always given
inconsistent.
Yeah, we're kind of given this picture that Calendor is like this raging fire.
Chaos,
yeah, it's really difficult to kind of control and everything. And actually, of course, that's
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I feel like I should save them for when we get to the section of A Path of Daggers. But
okay.
I really am. I'm a little bit upset about Kalendor, but we can.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe I'm supposed to be.
we do have an important Kalendor moment coming
We do.
up.
Yeah. We do.
So yes, join us in a future episode, and we will discuss Kalendor some more. Then Kara, another one of our regular commenters, she just mentioned that she was rewatching Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and Kate Fleetwood, who will be playing Leandrin, has a brief role.
Oh, cool.
And she also is enjoying the show as usual, and always looking forward to it, listening to you talking about the slog as humorous. I'm glad you think so. I hope folks understand that as we are going through the slog, and sometimes we rail on it pretty hard, it's this loving kind of approach to it.
It's in good humor. Yeah, we're just having a good time. Maybe we should focus on that more, I guess.
Yeah. Then a listener named Carrie said, "Hello, Will and Sam. I'm first-time reader to Wheel of Time and have read halfway through Lord of Chaos. I truly enjoy your sense of humor and summaries that help me understand which Aes Sedai names don't and won't matter."
So glad we could be of service, Carrie.
Yes. And she says, "So keep moving." Yes, I think that, to me, I spoiled lots of bits for myself as I was reading it, just trying to understand things.
Oh yeah, you would like go to the wiki and be like, "Oh no!"
Right. Yeah, and I was just kind of became resigned to it over a while. I was like, well, but I'm just having trouble like keeping up with, particularly as we got further, like as we're going to talk about in upcoming episodes. I mean,
keep adding more and more dadgum characters. Yeah.
Just so many characters that are like, and this person is missing.
Okay, who's that again?
Yes. Oh no. That person.
Right. It's like a memory exercise to like keep up with the character names. I was like, watching some show the other day. I was talking about memory. It was this guy's interviewing a memory world champion. She was like, "You have a memory palace, and inside your palace are the things you want to remember. Like, we need to have a memory palace for Aes Sedai names."
Yes, and we keep Pavara over here in this room, and we keep. There's a whole room of S name Aes Sedai.
Oh yeah, right.
And that's what's confusing, is that we just keep throwing them into that same room.
Just piling up.
So, yeah, Carrie continued by asking a question regarding the claim by the Wise Ones that traveling in Teleran Riyadh and the flesh is a no-go. She says, "What I remember is them saying that the person loses a part of themselves each time they do it. As I am not even halfway through and don't care about spoilers, would you say this proves to be true, or is just a red herring by Jordan again? Thanks for your consistent work on the podcast."
Yeah, I would think I'm probably more of the mind that he just kind of decided he didn't care about this.
Yeah, I feel like he abandoned it.
He did, yeah.
Because it really feels like to me that when earlier on, it feels like, oh, this is a big deal. This is going to pay off.
I mean,
later.
I would say the only way he tried to continue to pursue that was with Perrin and Slayer.
Oh yeah.
That sort of, but like Slayer has other reasons why he's lost a part of himself,
Right.
And I mean, and I think he was maybe Jordan was setting this up with all the Forsaken being in the flesh in Teleran Riyadh, and then Rand being in the flesh in Teleran Riyadh, and then having problems with his sanity, which are explained for other reasons. And so I feel like maybe there's a skeleton of it, but it just never, as a concept, is never fully realized enough to justify the Wise One's speech, or and also you can just say, well, they were just wrong.
Well, it's true. I mean, that just seems inconsistent, though, because they're the ones who otherwise know the most,
right? More than Aes Sedai have known,
right?
Or and generally more than like the Forsaken know,
right? Yeah, it does seem that way.
Yeah, it's like you need to give us some concrete examples of why you feel this way.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I do think, especially in light of like even what we were talking about earlier with Brandon Sanderson talking about the Jordan's notes and everything, I could totally see it being something that early on he may have had a plan for, and he either just didn't have time or kind of decided to go in a different direction.
Sure. And it's definitely a good way that Rafe and team can, just trim the fat.
Sure.
And that's the sort of thing that, and we've talked about this before, the Marvel Cinematic Universe does all the time, and to great effects. And it's almost always a very good thing, the way they streamline, simplify, kind of appropriate the best bits of stories, maybe the heart of the idea, but not the details. And, I'm okay with that. And if that's what Rafe does, more power to him. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, right. One person's streamlining is another person's butchering is, I think, part of the trick. So we also got a message on Instagram from Sina. She says, I'm listening to your newest episode now, and I just wanted to point out that there does seem to be contagious diseases she's referring to.
Okay. We talked about this. All right.
Yeah, about a month ago. Egwene had breakbone fever, which we don't actually know what it is.
Sounds like something I'd like to avoid.
Right. But the Two Rivers has a sick house.
Touche. That's where they hide out. Where Varen and Alana, is it Alana? I don't know, whoever the heck it was, hide out.
Yes.
Okay. And, touche, Cena.
And there's both an old and a new sick house. I think it was the old sick house that Varen and Alana
it was overgrown and
Yeah.
All right.
She's pointing out that because it's placed away from the village, that does indicate that there are contagious diseases.
Yeah.
And then she also mentions this exchange. It says, I hear the body did be all black and swollen. A lean, white-haired Ileanar in a dark blue coat said at another table, I hear the councils did order it burned. He raised his eyebrows significantly and tapped the side of a pointed nose that gave him the appearance of a weasel. If there was a plague in the city, Master Azeros, the councils would have announced it. The slim woman sitting across from him said calmly. So in other words, Ilian has experienced plagues at some point.
Well researched, Cena.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. Here's some examples like that. That's
right. And so I was like, I think I was the one that said it. And then I was like, afterwards, I'm like, I feel like there's more examples of this. I couldn't think of.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And so I was glad for her. And she came back later and she's like, well, I'm a hypochondriac, so I always notice
the exotic diseases.
Right.
Infection.
So yes, I appreciate that. That's the kind of thing that I'm looking for you guys to do.
Yeah.
Like when we say stuff that's like, no, there's plenty of evidence of this, then we can have these kinds of discussions. From Melissa on Instagram, she said, hey guys, I found your podcast a few weeks ago and I'm working my way from oldest to newest. I just listened to the one where you talked about racial injustice and I wanted to thank you for using your platform to speak out and raise awareness.
Oh, cool.
I love this podcast and I'm so excited for the TV show. I haven't convinced any of my friends to pick up the book yet, so listening to you guys is the next best thing. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, well, that's nice. Nice things to say. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Melissa. And we hope that you catch up all the way up soon so you can hear us saying thank you for listening.
Yeah, really.
Yes, and bless you for listening to those first several episodes.
Yeah.
Most recently, this wasn't exactly a message. It kind of was. The Dusty Wheel asked on their Instagram account, who's everyone's favorite Wheel of Time podcast was, and someone was nice enough to say us. And, and they put it out. There was in one of those fill in the blank things on Instagram stories. So it was anonymous, but I wanted to say thanks for the shout out, anonymous person.
Right.
I appreciate that. Maybe eventually the Dusty Wheel will ask us to stop by their show at some point.
That'd be cool.
Anyway, so that is all of our mailbag, and that wraps up this episode.
Thank you for listening to another episode on topic, off topic show update. We would be real happy if you'd stop by our website, tsmpodcast.com, fill out our contact form. And as you have heard in our mailbag, if you say nice things or have an interesting question or want to follow up on something we talked about, please reach out and we will read it on our next show update.
Yep.
You can follow us on all the socials at Podcast TSM, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can talk to us on there as well. Please give us a rating. That always helps. Follow us on YouTube. We can get a vanity URL and we'll possibly do a live stream at some point.
Right.
And so that'd be fun. I'll shower before we do that for sure.
Once a year is more than enough, Sam.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks again for listening, and Tai'Shar Manethrin.